Hello everyone. In the previous session, I discussed some of the advanced concept of CDS views, like view with input parameters, associations, path expressions, filter expressions, and how to consume CDS view as a OData service with the type 1. That is, if you are using SAP NetWeaver 7.4, then we will use ABAP dedic structure, that is import dedic structure methodology to expose CDS view as a OData service. Uh, in continuation to that session, so I'll expose you uh, how to expose CDSV as word data service. I'll continue type 1, and then I will proceed with type 2 and type 3, with where type 2 and type 3 is possible with SAP NetWeaver 7.5. So in continuation to previous session, so we have created a project in SCGW. So we imported dedic structure. So, and then I will edit this. So if you see this service implementation, so in the last session, so this node was not present since this MZI is the node which is created with 001 client, but now currently we are using 800 client. So to configure this node, I have to do some settings in SPRO. So the settings which I need to do to configure a node for the local machine was I have to go to SAP NetWeaver. So I have to expand my um gateway, and then I have to go to gateway and then OData, and then I have to configure, and then I have to go to connection settings, and I have to go to SAP gateway to SAP system, NetWeaver gateway to SAP system, expand this node, and I have to manage SAP system aliases. So when I click on this, I have to add a new entry called local, and then I have to give local gateway, local app, and I have to give software version as default, and the current system ID which I am using I need to give here. So, and the current client I have to give here. So these setting I need to add here to this is one of the setting which I need to do in implementation guide in SPRO to get this node in service implementation folder. So this is local. So this setting I have done here local. I clicked in new entries. So I maintained system alias local gateway I selected. So RFC destination system ID I gave, and SAP system alias I gave as a local. So currently I'm just executing this. I'm just going back. So this is the first configuration. This setting configuration I have done by clicking on new entries in manage SAP system alias node. So I went to gateway, OData channel, in connection settings. I went to SAP NetWeaver gateway to SAP system and manage SAP, maintain and manage SAP system aliases. Another setting which I need to do was I need to go to gateway service enablement. So backend OData channel, and I have to go to, and I have connection settings to SAP NetWeaver gateway, and I have to go to SAP NetWeaver gateway settings. So here as well, I need to maintain my destination system. So I maintained as GW underscore hub with client 800, system alias CC7, and RFC destination and none since it is a local. I have to run my gateway in a local system. So this is the second configuration which I need to do. So to enable a node in service implementation folder. So and then I have to go to SICF transition. This is the third setting which I need to do. So in SICF, just go to /sacf. So here I need to go to service with default host. So and click on OK. So here as well, I need to expand this default host under SAP, and there will be OPU node. You have to go to OPU node, and then you need to activate this service as well. So as I know, it is already activated. So all the services will be present here for you in underscore SAP. You see, all the services will be present here. So you need to activate OPU service to expose your gateway service to the outside world. So two settings I have done here. So one I managed my SAP system alias. Another one was I maintained that I maintained a gateway service enablement I have done. So then I will get SE in SEZW service maintenance folder. Then I will get this service road. As soon as when I click this, I have to select this and I have to register this service. As soon as when I register this service, it will change it into green status. So when it is changed into green status, you can maintain the service from the maintain service configuration. So when I click on S, so it will go to activate and maintain service folder. So if you see in IFC node, it's already activated. So you can click on the call browser to execute this service, or else what you can do is you can go to gateway client to execute this service. So as soon as when you click on enter, you will be able to see the OData service. Um, they are set before configuring this SCGW transition in the service maintenance folder. The settings needs to be done. So even in SCN SAP community network, you will be able to find step-by-step procedure if your ECC system or your gateway system was from the scratch. So you don't have any configurations maintained in our implementation guide about the service maintenance. So then you need to do configuration first in your gateway system to enable all the systems, all the OData subsystems. So you can find these step-by-step configurations in SCN as well. You can just Google saying that I need to get step-by-step procedure to configure gateway in my gateway. So uh, when you Google the in SCN or SAP community network, you will get how to configure this setup in your gateway system. So now I will continue with the next slides. So type 1 here, expose CDS view as OData service as a type 1. So I will just display a video for you as a recap. So how to expose OData service here. So I'll just go to desktop and open here. So if you see here, I am going to SCGW transition. So when I clicked on SCGW transition, this is type 1 again. I'm just giving here um, I'm using SAP NetWeaver 7.4. So here I'm creating a project. I'm showing you type 1 here. So import DDIC structure future role, I'm showing you how to expose CDS view. So I'm creating a project. So and I will give a meaningful description to my project and click on OK. I'm showing everything in local object. In data model, I need to right click and I will go to import and I have to give DDIC structure. Here I have to give some name to my entity name. So as of now I am giving supplier. So here I am going to CDS view. So the CDS view which I am going, so I have created a pre-template CDS view. I'm just copying my SQL view name. So I'll just copy it and paste it in the web structure. So I'll select the create default entity set. So select all the entities and click on next. So here I will be selecting a key value, and again I will click on next, finish. So here I'm expanding entities, properties. If you see my CDS properties, I got all the properties of my CDS view. So from the sample CDS view I took, and I created a new project. So I'm opening a supplier set, and I'm right clicking here. I'm doing a map to data source. So when you do a map to data source, it is a business entity. So this step I didn't do it before in the previous example. So here there is when you go into a system here, so in the service implementation sample set, you can go to map to data source. For me it is not enabled here, so we can go to data entity set, sample set. So in the service implementation sample set, this is my sample set. If you see, map to data source is not enabled for me because the version which I am using is not compatible. That is the reason why it's not enabled for me. So here, if you go to, I'll just see here. If you click on the entity set name, so as soon as when you click on right click on entity set name, then you will be able to. I'm just showing again. Right click on map to data source, and then it will ask for the SADL source. You have to give the business entity. Here SADL model type should be core data service. So you have to select your CDS view. So CDS view entity you have to give here. So give the CDS view entity. Click on OK. Click on OK. Now it will map your Redux structure and CDS view entity. So here what you have done was, so you imported Redux structure from your data model. In the service implementation, you have right clicked and then mapped your data source to CDS view entity. So your SQL view and CDS view entity is mapped in the service implementation folder. So we can see here mapping was done. So you can have to you can generate. You click on the generate mapping button to you click on the generate services. Click on OK and click on local objects. So it will generate a runtime artifacts for you. You can go to now service implement. So runtime artifacts are generated. So now we'll go to service implementation. We'll go to log and register the service. System alias. It will ask for the system alias. So you can go local, store in the local object your local, and then you have to register your service. Maintain your service. Now registered. Now you have to maintain your service. As soon as when you are maintain your service, it will open activate and maintain service. You can open in the gateway client. So in the gateway client, so if you see, you will be able to see the metadata of your service. So this metadata which I am getting here is the metadata of my CDS view entity. As soon as when I execute here, so here I am getting this entity because these entity sets I already have in my CDS view. So entity set is nothing but here the CDS view which I have created, the same entity sets I got here. So that means that here all the entities which I am getting is this is the way which I expose my CDS view from the OData service. So this method of exposing CDS view as a OData service was this method is called uh, exposing CDS view as OData service. Type 1, uh, mapping your DDIC structure with CDS view entity. So I'll just go to again entity. I'll try to create a new project here. That CDS expose. CDS. Just give local object. So now I'll go to one more. Suppose I will select here this union. I'll select this. I'll click on data model. I'll click on import. I should click on this data model. Click on import, DDIC structure. So if I should give a meaningful entity, I'll give as a union. So I'm just pasting my SQL view there. Clicking on next, selecting the fields of my CDS which is exposed here. Clicking on a key, I'll give it as a BPID. BPID is the key. I'm clicking on finish. So imported successfully. Now I'll try to do service implementation sample set with map to data source. Here it is not enabling here. There is a problem here for my CD in my system because of version mismatch. Yeah. So we'll go to the next concepts. Expose CDSV as word data service type 2. So in type 2 and type 3 is you will expose CDS view as word data service in type 2 and type 3. This will work from in version SAP NetWeaver 7.5 and above. So in the latest version, it will work. So I'll just go, I'll show you a video for you how it works in the type 2. So I have a CDS view. I have a CDS view here. So if you see, I have a CDS view. So sample CDS view. So this is my SQL view name. This is my CDS view entity. So in this SAP NetWeaver 7.5 type 2 OData service of exposing CDS view, I will directly use CDS entity. Before in type 1, what I have done was I have used a DDIC structure, that means that SQL view, and I mapped to CDS view entity in the service implementation. Right when I right click and map to data source, I mapped SQL view with CDS view entity. In type 2, I'll directly use CDS view entity. So that means that I'll copy this directly this CDS view entity, and then this is my CDS view entity. This is my SQL view. I am copying this CDS view entity, and then I'll use directly CDS view entity in SCGW transaction. This is a complex CDS view, so which I got. So what I will be doing was I will just go to SCGW. So I'll create a new project here. So meaningful description here in the local objects. Click on OK. So I'll go to data model. Here, when I click on import, I'll get a reference data source. If you see here, I'm getting a, when I right click in the data model, I am getting a menu called reference here. So that's the advantage here for me in SAP NetWeaver 7.5. So if I go to my system here in the data model and right click, I'm not getting reference because since I'm using SAP NetWeaver 7.4. So go here. So you will get a reference CDS view entity. So I'm just, so reference map modeled CDS view entity. So reference, I'm just passing again for you. Modeled data source referencing testing. So as soon as when I click on this, I can give directly CDS view entity. So I will copy my CDS view entity here, and directly I'll give my CDS view entity here. This is pre-recorded in SAP NetWeaver 7.5. So I can give my exposed association as well. So contact person was an exposed association for my CDS view. So if you see, it is exposure of CDS view with entity and entity sets. So all the my complex CDS view which I have created will be exposed into my OData project, gateway service builder project. So now associations as well, I got my associations as well. So all the referential constraints, associations, everything I got my CDS view entity. So if you see, it will be navigated to contact person as well. So association sets, everything I got. So in service implementation, I'm just clicking on the synchronize button to get the runtime artifacts. To get the runtime artifacts, I should click on the synchronize button to get runtime artifacts. In the service maintenance tab, now I'll get all the runtime artifacts. So we see all the runtime artifacts are generated. I'll go to local object now. So I will just register the service. So system alias will be local. So as soon as when I click on OK, it will register. It will change to green. After saving, it will change to green. So now it is changed to green status. Now I will maintain it. When I click on S, I will be maintaining it. I'll go to gateway client to execute this service. So I'm selecting the metadata. So as metadata is a OData parameter to display the properties of this service. So I got all the properties of this service. So here in you will get associations as well in your OData service. So how you define your CDS view entity? So in the same way, you will get all the entities and associations and the navigations as well. So when you define your CDS view, when you configure it properly, you will be able to expose this as a OData service as well. So here in this type 2 is supported from SAP NetWeaver 7.5. So here how you expose was when you create a project in SCGW, when you right click in the data model, you will get a menu called reference. So modeled reference source, you will be using a modeled reference source, referential data source, and then by using referential data source, so you will use directly CDS view entity, and then you will expose your OData service. So there is third type called expose CDS view as OData service type 3 using annotations. So here, without using of gateway, using a simple OData annotation, you will be able to expose your CDS view as a OData service. No coding required in the ABAP gateway, no project creation required in the ABAP gateway. Directly in your CDS view, if you write an annotation call at the rate OData.publish true, you will you then and activate your CDS view. It will create a OData service for you, and just you need to go to gateway to just add the service to your local machine and register that service. Then you will be able to expose this as a OData service. So using annotations in the sense, I already told you annotations are of two types in my previous sessions: core annotations and generic annotations. Core annotations are the annotations which is generated uh, which, when you create a CDS view, like that is system specific to the views. These core annotations are like at the rate above catalog, buffering. These are core annotations, but there are generic annotations as well, specific to user. So you have UA annotations, analytic annotations, OData annotations. So UA annotations are annotations specifically to UA. So analytic annotations are used for analytical purpose. Here, OData annotations are used to generate OData service for you for your CDS view. Suppose I'll show you in the system how it works. So, so I have a CDS view now. So with the SQL view name. This is my CDS view entity name. So what I am doing was I'm writing an annotation called at the rate OData dot publish true. So this is my annotation which I am writing here. So this annotation generates a OData service for me. So I have a CDS view. So for any CDS view, if you write an annotation at the rate OData dot publish true and activate the CDS view, then it will create a OData service for you based on the CDS view entity name. So this feature is supported only from SAP NetWeaver 7.5 and above. So now I will activate the OData service syntax check and then activating the OData service. So now it will generate a service for me. So I have to just double click here. So it will generate a service for me. So I have to copy this service and I have to go to activate and maintain services in gateway, that is IWFND activate and maintain service. I have to go to IWFND maintain service. This is a transition which where I can maintain my services. So here I have to click on add service and I give technical service name and system alias should be local. So if you see technical service name which is generated here, generated will be the CDS view entity name only. The CDS view with the CDS view entity name only, the technical service name will be generated, but underscore CDS will be the appended concatenated name which will be generated. So here underscore CDS is the appended name. So as soon as now I will have to select my service and I have to add this service to my local object. So when I click on OK, it will be added to the local object. So if you see, I didn't map anything. I didn't do any reference of meta source. So I just added the service. I return the annotation. So I will search my service and I will call the gateway client to execute the OData service with metadata parameters. So I'm executing. So if you see, it is already executed properly. So I can go to entity set. So I have 2 or 3 entity sets for my in my CDS view. So I can display the metadata as well. So metadata is displayed. So through annotations, we will be able to generate OData service as well. So OData.published equal to true is the annotation which is used to generate OData service. So executing the service. So when you define a CDS view and if you write an annotation OData.publish.true, it will generate a service for you. So you can use this service in the front end. So it is very easy. So no coding required. Just the framework creates a OData service for you. Yeah. So coming to the next slides. So up to now we have seen 3 different ways to generate OData service. So I will recap once again. So first type 1 used in SAP NetWeaver 7.4. So there you will map your ABAP SQL view with your CDS view entity and then you generate your OData service. And type 2 you will use type 2 and type 3 is available, can be done only in SAP NetWeaver 7.5 and above 7.5. So in type 2 you directly use referential data source approach where you directly give your CDS view entity name and generate the OData service. In type 3 you will use OData annotation to generate the OData service. So finally, we came to the end of the unit where we covered almost all the topics related to CDS views. So we started with the introduction to CDS views. So what is the architecture? So what is the difference between ABAP CDS views and HANA CDS views, and how CDS view works? What are the enhanced capabilities of CDS view when compared to dictionary view? So and we dealt with SQL features of CDS views, and and uh, af- and then we uh, discussed about advanced concepts in CDS views. Finally, we discussed about how to expose CDS views as a data services in different ways. So so where these CDS views are used. So CDS views will be used by SAP UEFI and SAP Fiori developers in the front end. So they you they use CDS views to direct with help of UI annotations. They will be able to generate a UI like they can generate normal master detail page and entire view page. View can be created with UI annotations. So there is annotation.xml now. So in the new view Fiori 1.4, in the new version of Fiori, UI annotation using UI annotations. So Fiori um, application can be developed. So and CDS views will be used by SAP NetWeaver Gateway OData developers. So they create a CDS view, expose them as I shown in the previous videos. So they will consume CDS view as a OData service. They will create a CDS view and consume it as a OData service and they will give to the front end UI developers. So front end developers will use the CDS view to generate the UI. And yes, it is used by ABAP for HANA developers. So who to consume your CDS view can be created not only in the ABAP tables. You can expose your HANA views as well, like HANA tables, HANA views can be exposed as well. So ABAP and HANA developers as well will be used the CDS views. Finally, S4 HANA. So if you S4 HANA developers who changing their existing solution to cloud from ERP, like any existing solution, uh, they are moving to cloud. So all the S4 HANA developers will be using this CDS views. So coming to Unit 6, new OpenSQL features. So what are the new OpenSQL features? So with SAP NetWeaver 7.4 and above, so there are new OpenSQL features in ABAP. So ABAP variables are escaped with at the rate. I already showed you how to consume CDS views in select query. So there, if you should, all the ABAP variables are escaped with at the rate to store any value. So and when you write a select query, so when you use when you select some fields from SFlight, all the columns, all the fields should be comma separated. So comma separated column list has to be used. Arithmetic expressions are used, and cast string expressions are used in the select query. Even in the case expressions can be used in your select query. So you have enhanced capabilities here in your OpenSQL. So these features are available from SAP NetWeaver 7. ABAP 7.4. So in SAP NetWeaver ABAP 7.5 and above, still many features are supported, like your select query from select from first and field. You can select specific field as well into will be present at the last. So these are the some of the new features which are available from SAP in ABAP NetWeaver 7.5. You can have union and union all syntax as well. ABAP expressions are supported. Dynamic on clause also supported. Use of CDS associations with path expressions. So path expressions also can be written in your select query. So global temporary tables as also available. So temp temporary tables are the tables where which you use it for versioning, and if you want to have 3 or 4 versions, So then you use temporary real tables. So these features, union all, abap expressions, use of CDS associations, path expressions, dynamic con class. So these features are available from SAP NetWeaver 7.5 and above. Few limitations are removed from, such as right order join. So in your OpenSQL, before SAP NetWeaver 7.4, right outer join is not supported. Now right outer join is also supported. Use of complex joins can be done using braces. And condition is extended with greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. With more operands, on conditions are extended in your join conditions. Maximum number of tables in joins is increased to 50. So you can use joins up to 50. 50 joins you can use in your select query. And maximum number of subqueries is increased to 50. So 50 subqueries can be used in your select query. So these are the few limitations which are removed, uh, and your OpenSQL capabilities are increased from SAP NetWeaver 7.4 and above. So OpenSQL is more powerful from SAP NetWeaver 7.4 and above. So you can do more number of operations from NetWeaver 7. With OpenSQL from 7.4 and above. So if you see some of the syntaxes for select new syntax, if you see select, when you use a select new syntax, so you can use select care ID, con ID, flight date, booking ID from sbook into table with at the rate. At the rate is nothing but local host variable. So all the above variables will be escaped with at the rate. This is nothing but host variable. Comma separated column list should be used. This is the sample syntax here. So when you use a select query with a new OpenSQL syntax, you should use comma separated column list, and all the local variables should be escaped with at the rate. So these are called as host variables. So you can use case expressions as well in your select query. So you can use select. So you can use comma separated column list in one of the column called smoker in your sbook sbook table. You are using a case, and when smoker is x, when a in your table, when a passenger is a smoker, then you can check a floor and you can use arithmetic expression. Else you can seal and end as a destined amount, and you can cast as well. That means that you can use arithmetic expressions, case expressions, cast expressions combined in your select query. So your select query has more, uh, it can do more capabilities in single shot. So in this, if you execute this select query, that means that you are able to do more complex calculations in one shot. So before, when you do a complex calculation, you have to write case as a separate, select as a separate, arithmetic operations as separate, all the cast expressions are separate, and then you combine them and store in an internal table, and finally you will get the result. But now your OpenSQL uh, select capabilities were increased in such a way, with a simple select, one single select query, you will be able to get, you will be able to do many calculations, that too in with a very less number of code, means that code optimization was done for your select query with more capabilities. So here, so case, cast, case expressions, string expressions, arithmetic expressions are supported in your SQL select. So from SAP NetWeaver 7.5 and above, there are many other capabilities are supported, like in your select query, like union all, which is still under process. So that means that those are available only from SAP NetWeaver 7.5. I have given a overview. So what is present above 7.5 in yours, and what is present below 7.5 in your new OpenSQL features. So now, what are the key takeaways from Unit 2 uh, and Unit 3, Unit 4? We discussed 4 or 5 units here related to core data services. So what are the key takeaways? So key takeaways are core to data approach. So core to data approach is followed for your CDS view. That means that you push your calculation logic in your database layer. That means that you do your calculations in database rather than application layer. You move your results back, and don't move whole data back. You move you do your calculations in database layer and just pass the results to application server. So on database views, you have seen how to create a view database using CDS views in ABAP. And you used what are the SQL, some of the SQL features like joins, unions, expressions, string expressions, arithmetic expressions, how to create them in your CDS views. And you have seen how to do aggregations, grouping, and filtering as well. And you have seen associations, path expressions, filter expressions in CDS views. You have seen there are some of the new OpenSQL features for select statements for SAP NetWeaver 7.4 and SAP NetWeaver 7.5. What are the new features? And you have seen how to consume your CDS view in ABAP in your select query. You have to use at the rate host variable. So, and you have used a new OpenSQL syntax using client. So using client is used for if you wanted to specifically use get the data of specifically for a particular client, then you use select, and you use star from table, and then you use client, you specify the client name, and then you will get the data of specific client if you use syntax called using client. And finally, you have seen different ways to expose CDS view as data service. So in type 1, you have seen type 1 is supported in SAP NetWeaver 7.4, and type 2 and type 3 is supported from SAP NetWeaver 7.5. In type 1, we used how to import DDIC structure, and you use will map your DDIC structure with CDS view entity. In type 2, you will use referential data source. So you will use right click on data model, and you use referential data model and give your CDS view entity there directly. And type 3, you use more annotation called OData.publish. So with simple annotation, you will be able to create OData service there. So in type 3 is more flexible, and it is used no coding required there. It is very easy to generate OData service on top of CDS view if you use OData annotation. So, but that is supported only from SAP NetWeaver 7.5 and above. So so, so from this we conclude core data services, introduction to core data services, SQL features in core data services, and advanced concepts, advanced SQL concepts in CDS views, and different ways to expose CDS views as core data services unit, and finally new open SQL features in CDS view. So these concepts we concluded here. So in the coming session, we discuss how you take ABAP to SAP HANA. Yeah, thank you.